Hi, y'all. Thank you guys for coming. I just want to introduce Jared Trevino from the Montgomery County Office of Homeland Security and Emergency Management for this month's CJ Real Talk.
Okay, can everybody still hear me? Perfect. First time I get mic'd up, so I can't be yelling, so I'll talk in a lower voice. So as she said, I am with Montgomery County Office of Homeland Security and Emergency Management. So a little introduction to me. My title is Community Preparedness Planner and the CERT Coordinator for Montgomery County. Since I am young, I don't have any prior experience to this, so my education is my experience. I have a bachelor's and master's degree in Homeland Security Studies and a graduate certificate in Emergency Management. And fun fact, I just graduated this past May. So I've been in this role for about 7 months. I absolutely love it. As soon as she sent me the email asking me if I wanted to do it, it was an automatic yes. I was like, of course, I'll come out and do it. I love it. So a little bit about our office. So at Montgomery County, we service the entire county. We focus and lead and support to prepare, respond, recover, and from any incidents that threaten Montgomery County, whether that be in it or our neighbors, which includes the Houston-Galveston Area Council, which includes Walker County. It's actually made up of 13 counties, but usually when I say that, people are like, well, name them all. I can't do that. I usually can name like 5 or 6, and then I start giving up. I was like, I can't name all 13 counties. That is too much to remember. We do all this. We achieve comprehensive and integrated emergency management systems that coordinate with local, regional, state, federal, private, and nonprofit to protect lives, property, and then the environment. And it's in that order. That's what we learn in emergency management. The way it goes life, property, and then the environment. And over here, you'll see a picture of our EOC, which is our Emergency Operations Center. So if you've ever seen any movie where it's like the war room and they're in the dark and there's big screens and everyone working on the computers, that's essentially what it is. That's what it looks like. But no one in there is going to be yelling, because if you're yelling in our EOC, we're going to ask you to very kindly, or not so kindly, leave. But it depends on what incident or what it might be on how it is staffed. So you can't really tell in that picture, but it's made up of 4 different levels. So the back 2 levels will always be staffed by our office. The front 2 depends on the incident. So if we have like a fire or a hazmat incident or even a protest, it just depends on who's in the front. So we say there's a fire, we have all our local ESDs, we have the Texas A&M Forest Service. Since we're so close to the Sam Houston National Forest, we might have some people from there. It just depends. And also, if you have any questions, just feel free to raise your hand, or I don't see you, just yell at me, that's fine. So what is a disaster? What are some key elements of disasters? First is that they are relatively unexpected, that happen with little or no warning. Available personnel or emergency services will most likely be overwhelmed. Lives, health, and the environment will be in danger. And in the immediate aftermath of disasters, this is where our volunteer orgs come into play, and we rely on them very heavily, and we'll learn a little bit about more of them a little later, which is CERT. So we classify our disasters into 3 different types. We have natural, all the ones everyone thinks about, hurricanes, floods, landslides, volcanoes. Technological, those can be power outages, rail incidents, and then we move to intentional. That's where we call terrorism or crimes. We also have to remember we can have technological disasters that are caused by something intentional. Community preparedness. So what are some unique things we want to address when it comes to our community? So first, we want to know the threats and vulnerabilities of the area. So in this area, what are some threats and vulnerabilities you might think of, with it being a college campus? Anything? We would call this a soft target. So like I just did, I just very easily parked, walked right into the building. Same thing with arenas, malls. We call those soft targets. Know the existing infrastructure. What infrastructure do we have around here? Is this are we building it up? Do we have the little call buttons around we can call for help? Recognize the resources and skills of the community. So depending on where I give these presentations at, the skills of people change. So if I'm talking to nurses, they have a unique skill set. Criminal justice, unique skill set. It might be HOA, different skill set. Older people that are retired, different skill set. You also want to recognize the population composition of the community. So here, we have a lot of younger students, not particularly in this room, but let's say in college, they're usually younger. Maybe they're not used to the real life thing or all the aspects of real life. So that might be something unique. Or you might live in an older 55 and up community. It just depends on where you live. So next, we're going to address whole community. It basically means what you think. It means the whole community. We do government leaders, businesses, community leaders, and all members of the community. And I'll talk a little bit more of that in a couple slides. So what is the government's role? What is our role? So first, we develop, test, and refine our emergency plans. We do all that through exercises, continuing education classes, and pretty much anything you can think of. We ensure our responders have adequate skills and resources. We do that through purchasing all their equipment with our grants, make sure they practice them with full-scale exercises, and a bunch of other stuff. We provide resources to protect and assist citizens. We do that through our emergency notification. We have our own app. And actually, we're coming out with a new app, which I'm excited about. We've been beta testing it, and it's looking pretty nice, so I like it a lot. Involve the community in the planning process. So going back to the whole community, currently I am writing the Community Wildfire Protection Plan, and I am not an expert on firefighting or flames or topography or vegetation. So this is where we get into the whole community when we say involve them in planning. So I need to get to a point where I can go out and ask people from the Forest Service, from the USDA, hey, I need help on this section. What do I do? Can I have I won't say biography, but basically a biography of the county. So when I'm looking at it, where are the places that are most in danger? Where do we see the most people that live in these urban index, probably it's called, it's like WUI, but it's where the forest and the urban area cross over, and that's where they're most in danger for wildfires. So there you go. There you go. After I was looking at you, I was like, I know you know. Provide reliable and actionable information. We do all that through our emergency alert systems and through all our social medias. Encourage training and practicing with volunteer programs. We do that a lot. Here recently, we've been doing a lot of full-scale exercises involving our CERT volunteers, our volunteers from the STEM Houston nursing program, so that way they can see what it looks like in real life. And also they're very good at critiquing all the first responders because they know how to do triage and treatment. So that's also fun. What are some of the government services that are provided or included? So we have emergency management, myself, it could be law enforcement, public works, human services, EMS, and pretty much all those other government agencies you can think of. So I was talking about planning. So we have what we call an emergency operation plan. Government agencies that are responsible for disaster response work together to plan and coordinate their actions in advance for emergency disaster. All of that work comes together to create the emergency operation plan. So when we say EOP, it means all our plans. That includes the basic, our annexes, which are now being transitioned to ESFs, and also our supporting specific annexes. So in that plan, you will see responsibilities and organizations that are identified, set forth lines of authority, and also lines of succession. We will describe how people, property will be protected, and we identify personnel, equipment, facilities, supplies, and other resources. We do that in our logistics. And also for emergency management, it takes an all hazards approach. So you're not able to write a plan for everything that's super specific. So we can't write a plan for every single type of incident because then you'll have endless plans. So what it means by all hazards is that if something were to happen, we can activate a certain annex, a certain specific plan, and it'll cover it. So we have an active shooter, we can do evacuation, mass care, reunification, mass casualty. So we can activate 4 or 5 different plans that will cover that one incident. That's what it means by all hazard. So what is the role of the citizens in the community? So like I talked about earlier, that is our app, Smart 911. We're working on a new one, but this one is also great. Know the resources and recognize your local agencies. So you want to know your local fire departments, your local EM, or I guess in this case, you only have one county EM. Enroll in training opportunities, practice skills and personal plans. I'll talk a little bit more when it comes to personal preparedness. Educate your community and neighbors. So once you learn this, don't keep it to yourself. A lot of times when I say this, I always say like grow forth, but then it sounds like I'm preaching, so I don't like saying that. But make sure you tell your neighbors, tell your friends, tell your other professors. Educate community and neighbors. So like I just said, tell everyone you know, say, hey, I learned this new thing that's interesting. Go spread the word. Report suspicious activity. That goes back to the see something, say something. It's better to report it than not. And then volunteer. So like I was telling a couple of y'all before we started, I'm always looking for more volunteers. So if y'all happen to be certified or we can find a way to loop y'all in, just send me an email and I would love to add y'all to my pool of volunteers. We can always use more because it's great to have a lot of volunteers. So the 3 steps to preparedness. So a lot of times when I present these 3 easy steps, a lot of people think it's silly, but it's also easiest to present it on a level where everyone can understand it because it's all scalable. So if I say make a plan, I was talking about our plans earlier. We have plans, individuals have plans, homes, communities, cities. It's all scalable. So make a plan. Know what you're going to do with your family and how to react. Build the kit. Have all your supplies assembled and gathered before the disaster strikes. With us, that is our warehouse. We have a 68,000 square foot warehouse. It basically looks like a Costco of emergency management. There we have all our big toys, we have all our cots, pillows, vaccines, MREs, crates, what else do we have in there? We have a lot of stuff. Medical supplies, all the antibacterial wipes, anything you can think of. We have chem cleaning kits. Those, so like in case of a flood, there's an individual bucket that has everything you can use to clean a house. We just hand them out to people, and they're good to go. Stay informed. Stay up to date on the latest news and accurate information. With y'all, that is our apps. With us, that is making sure all our partners are giving us the correct and accurate information, or us disseminating that accurate information. So here are some questions you should ask yourself when you're making your own disaster plan for yourself, your family, your home, your school, your dorm, whatever you should think. So where should you and your family meet? Where should me and my roommate meet? Where should me and my professors meet? Where should me and my students meet if something were to happen? So if something were to happen in this room, do we know where we'd exit? Do we know where the exits are at? We should. In the case of emergency, do you have a contact you can call? Preferably one that is out of state or out of town, because we don't want to call someone that's across the street that's also being affected by the same thing we're being affected by. That doesn't do us any good. We need someone outside to know that we're okay. Will we shelter in place or evacuate? So if we shelter in place, do you know what to do? If we evacuate, do you know where to go? Do we know where the shelters are in the county? Those are some things we might want to know beforehand. Do you know how to escape the building? See, I got ahead of myself. Do you know all the exits when you're at work, school, place of worship? Do you know the routes, alternative routes? Do you have transportation? So I know probably a lot of kids in college now don't have a car, because when I was in college, half of them didn't. So maybe coordinate with either your roommate, your friend across the hall, if something were to happen, that you can all carpool together. Have you practiced your plan with all members of the family and household? So we do this for two reasons. First, you want to practice to make sure everyone knows it runs smoothly. Second, you also want to practice it because maybe you wrote it down, and in theory, it seemed great. But when you actually went and tested it, you're like, this aspect didn't work. That really wasn't a good place for us to evacuate to, or this wasn't a good place for us to stage at. It's still kind of in the vicinity of danger, so you do it because everyone needs to know. And second, you do it because you want to refine that plan. So building your disaster supply kit, this is probably a basic one that all y'all know, but the good thing, rule of thumb to go by is 1 gallon of water per person per day. For food, it says 3 days. That's what FEMA says. I say 7 because I like pushing it a little further, but you have to make sure they're non-perishable. If you have any special populations, babies, dogs, make sure you also include them. And another thing to think about when you have non-perishables is that you're going to need something to open them, a manual can opener, because a lot of times it gets people, you have all this food in cans, but nothing to open it with. Next, we'll look at the first aid, tailor that to your needs. It could be your prescriptions. Do they need to be refrigerated? Do they need to be kept at a certain temperature? So you might need ice chest, ice, you might need a generator, fuel. It all goes into the emergency tools. So there you could have duct tape, tarps, anything you can use for a temporary fix, extra batteries, flashlights, NOAA radios. Next, we'll move to cash, keys, because a lot of times during these disasters we don't have any power, so we can't use our cards, can't use our phones, so cash is usually the best thing to go by. Next is always have a waterproof bag where you can keep all your important documents, whether that be your birth certificate, marriage license, social security card, any document you consider to be important, always keep an extra copy in a document safe bag. And like I said earlier, tailor it to your own family's needs. So it's the stay informed section. So I don't know how many of y'all use Facebook, but I would recommend you follow our Facebook. We are the most, or that one we are most accurate and active on. So all the other ones we do post on, but Facebook, they're always on it, always posting on it, all our events, any weather updates, and also Smart 911. So y'all can go ahead and download that. I don't know how many of y'all live in Montgomery County, but that is specific to Montgomery County. So the way that Smart 911 works, if you create your account or app, you upload all your information into it, and you can also add additional information. So if you're allergic to certain medications, say you take care of your elderly mother or father, they can't walk, they're non-ambulatory, those are all things you can put into the app so that when you call dispatch, it automatically pulls up on their screen and you don't have to tell them. Not too far? Okay, good. So we're going to pivot. So as I said, my title is Community Preparedness Planner and CERT Coordinator. Does anyone know what CERT stands for? If you can read it, that little small part in the corner. Fantastic. How do you know that? Yes, so she's currently taking my CERT class that I'm teaching right now in Montgomery Police Department. So the CERT program we have in Montgomery County, currently we have 700, do I know the exact number? 723 people trained in CERT, another 525 in MRC, which is Emergency Reserve Corps. So right now we have 1,200 volunteers. We could always use more, like I said. I don't know who the CERT coordinator is in this county, but I would love to know. I know who the emergency management coordinator is, so I need to get in contact with them. So back to CERT. So a program that gives proper training to those citizens on how to lessen the impact of a disaster. So how many of us know what to do during a disaster? Do we have our kits? Do we know where to go? Or anything we need to do? Is this anything we've thought about? I'm guessing no then. So for CERT, they are self-deployable in the immediate area. So you have to remember, you're not going to be deploying across the county to another state. This is meant for your own community. That's why it says Community Emergency Response Team. So if you say you live in Elkins Lake, they might have their own CERT team. They can deploy in their own area if they have their own CERT team set up. It is designed to do the greatest amount of good for the greatest amount of people. So another thing to remember is that CERT people are not first responders. All this is basic training. You have to stay within your training. Don't go beyond it because we don't want you to get hurt. That's another thing we also teach in CERT. Your first priority is your own safety. So you have to remember you're not a first responder. CERT volunteers are often the first hands on scene because when it comes to disasters of that magnitude, it might be days, weeks, 12, 24 hours before first responders or professionals are able to get to where you're at. So here's how the CERT curriculum is broke down if we look at it. First one is the disaster preparedness. Y'all got a little bit of that with this presentation, but I would need probably another hour because for that, we go into each specific disaster that's related to Montgomery County, how you should prepare for it specifically, and so on and so forth. Fire safety, that one we do basic pass method, how to put out a fire, fire science, the fire triangle, all different types of fire extinguishers you might use. Disaster medical operations, part one, that one is where we do triage. We do the 3 killers, which is airways, excessive bleeding, shock. MedOps 2 is where we do the head-to-toe assessments and setting up the treatment area. Light search and rescue, that teaches you how to do the left, right-hand side, grid, practice how to do cribbing to lift heavy objects off people that might have crushing injuries. Disaster psychology and terrorism, that one just teaches you how to be an empathetic listener and to understand, so that way you're taking care of someone who's a victim. Don't try to diagnose anything, but make sure you're being empathetic and being comforting, and how to better comfort that person, and also identify those things that might be happening in your own people, CERT. CERT organization, that teaches them basic ICS systems, command, and all the 3 branches. And then the final is a disaster simulation, which is also fun. The one we use for Montgomery County, if we're using this from, we'll say like a tornado tore through. It's light damage. We don't know how many victims we have, but we know we are missing a baby. And there, we'll set up medical, triage, incident command. We'll do the simulation, give them 45 minutes. It's always fun to do it because the first go-around, everyone's always frantic. They're running around. They did 8 weeks of training, and it goes straight out the window. So, like I did one last night for our Bonterra CERT team, and it's an older community, so they're all over the age of 60, and it was funny because you could see that they were panicked and everything. So as I'm going through, watching, taking pictures, I was like, hey, take a deep breath. What do we do when we come to someone? So it's always fun to do, and they always feel bad. They're like, why, we learned all these things, and I just forgot it all. I was like, well, don't worry. I was like, we have these classes. We'll redo them up. You practice, and you'll get better. So it's always good stuff. So how the team is designed. So I kind of touched on this earlier. So we have 3 CERT teams in the county. We have Del Webb, Bonterra, and the East 1488 CERT. The one where I was at yesterday was Bonterra. It's a 55 and older community. Same thing with Del Webb. The East 1488, you'll see that they have an asterisk next to them, and that's because they're not a traditional CERT team. They're not a community. It's kind of an area, so it doesn't follow the rules of CERTs. That's why there's an asterisk next to it. But traditionally is how it's set up is if I go out and teach a CERT class to a community, 20, 25 people, with the intent of them setting up their own CERT team. So they'll be certified, they'll be 20, 25 to start the team off. They'll have their monthly meetings or bi-monthly, sharpen their skills. They'll need all the board members, all their volunteers to oversee the group. So the ones for Volunteer CERT, their name is Carla and Tony. They're very great. They ask a lot of questions. They email me, call me a lot, which is great most of the time. So I said they'll meet quarterly. So like I said earlier, being on the CERT team does not mean you have to respond. So a lot of times when we go out and do CERT events, this makes people kind of nervous because they feel like they have to respond or they have to do this or they have to do that. So one thing they have to remember is that it's all voluntary. This gives you just the opportunity to respond if you feel fit to do so or comfortable to do so. Because a lot of times if you're entering these situations or disasters and you don't know what to do, a lot of time that's scary and it can make you anxious. So if we're able to teach you how to be better prepared and how to react to it, it helps you think more clearly in those scenarios. And also another thing I have to tell them is that in reality, you might not respond as a CERT team maybe ever in your life, but there are practical uses for it. So you might be at the grocery store, you might be at your grandkids or at your son's football game. They could have impalement, a cut, concussion, shock, heat exhaustion, something. And it's something you learned in CERT could be used in more practical uses. You could use it at the grocery store, the movie theater, at a sporting event. But the only thing is, as long as you can take away that you know how to better take care of yourself and your family from the CERT training, then we've done our job and we've succeeded. So in Montgomery County, we are resource heavy. We have lots of personnel and lots of, I don't want to say money, but a lot of money to do a lot of things that we want in the county. We don't really use the CERT team in traditional ways. So we use them a lot for volunteer opportunities. So in this case, we use them for our exercises or training events. We use them for our special events like Ironman, preparedness fairs. That can either be for setting up, traffic management, sign-ins, handing out water. It just depends on what our needs are for that event. Or, like I was telling them earlier, you can be added to our disaster pool. So from there, I will send out additional trainings, whether it be certain ICS classes, in-person classes, or we could bring in the Red Cross to teach them how to manage shelters. I'm trying to think what else we do. We do Skywarn, a couple others. I think I have them listed on the next slide. And also, specifically, we use them for our call centers. So last year during Barrel, we called in about 15 or 20 of our volunteers that operated our call centers. So we have a number that we activate during our activations, and they answer all our phone calls, write everything down, so that way we're not tied up answering all those phones. And we have an example of that on the next slide. So since I was asked to also talk a little bit about myself, this is also what my additional duties are, because it's not just community preparedness and CERT. So I do all the special event planning for Montgomery County. That is Ironman, that is all the county fairs and rodeos, that's all those spontaneous events we had for Charlie Kirk, all the PGA tours. What else have I done? All those event plans, that has now been allocated to me. They're like, oh, you're the new guy. Here, do all the paperwork. We love it. We love it, we love it, we love it. We also, or in my instance, I also help them do all the logistics and coordinating and planning for all our full-scale exercises. The example I put up there is our reality-based training center. That is a school in New Caney that we own. It's the old Kiefer Crossing Middle School. There they do a bunch of active shooter trainings with all our law enforcement, DPS, Harris County. Anyone that wants to come in, you come in and rent it out, and they'll do the training for you. Like I was also mentioning earlier, we do also emergency plans for entities in the county. That includes schools, whether it be public or private, assisted living facilities, airports, chemical companies, dams, etc. So another thing also you have to remember for emergency management is all these people are coming to you and they expect you to be a subject matter expert in everything. And that's also where the whole community comes into play. So about 3 months ago, I did not know much about assisted living facilities or how their EPPs or emergency preparedness plans should be written. But now, I don't want to say I'm a subject matter expert, but I can pretty much say, oh, this is what you need, this is in here, this is in there, under this section. So it's fun. I like learning new things, and a lot of times they're fun, but sometimes they can be a little dull. And reading the law on how an emergency plan should be written for an assisted living facility, I can say is a little dry. We also do facility risk assessments. So We have a couple new schools that open there in Willis. So as the schools open, we also got requested for the School of Osteopathic Medicine because I think they did a renovation that asked us to do a facility walkthrough and a risk assessment. And it sounds like what you think. They invite us in, we take a tour, we go in, we take notes, we tell them what we think, and then they take that into consideration. Here we go, volunteer continuing education opportunities. So in our office, we teach Stop the Bleed. I'm one of our Stop the Bleed instructors. We do Narcan, CPR, disaster assessments, iStats. So iStats is the app that our volunteers use to do the disaster assessments. We do CRAZE, which is Citizens Response to Active Shooter. That is for citizens. Alert is specifically for law enforcement. Skywarn, that's essentially is like, I don't call it weather science, disaster science. It teaches you how to read the clouds and look at the clouds and know what weather might be happening. And then we also do shelter training with the Red Cross. And this is the example for the call center. So in the state of Texas, we have STEER, which is the State of Texas Emergency Assistance Registry. This is specifically what we use our volunteers for in call centers. So the example is we have in Barrel. They don't have power. So everyone we have on our STEER list, which is about 1,200 people, which is people with disabilities or access and functional needs, which includes pregnant women. It could be people that don't speak English. They can't walk. It pretty much covers almost anybody. But in the county, we have about 1,200 on our list. So for Barrel, they were out of power. They were out of power for 2 hours. We have our automated messaging machine call every person on the list. If we don't get a response, yes or no, we'll have someone physically call them from our call center. From there, we still don't get a response. We send out EMS or fire to go physically go check on them. And that's how the STEER list works, and that's also an instance where we use our volunteers in our call centers. And our special operations vehicle. So this is what I was talking about at the beginning. So we have a bunch of big toys in our warehouse. This is our special operations vehicle. It is an ambulance, but we cannot call it an ambulance because this is not staffed by EMTs 24 hours a day. It is a 43-foot long ambulance. It holds 22 live and quite a few more people that aren't alive. But we have not used it yet for that. But what we use it a lot for is if we have a lot of fires or wildfires in Montgomery County, so we use it as a rehab trailer. So on the top, you can't see it, but there's like 3 or 4 large ACs on it, and we can crank it all the way down to about 60 degrees. And we'll have our firefighters sit in there for about 20 or 30 minutes, get oxygen, and they'll be rehabilitated, and we'll send them back out. Or we use it, we take it to the Boy Scouts, and the little kids like to run and play on it and take all the medical supplies out. This is our mobile command center. So at the beginning, I showed you our EOC. This is our mobile EOC. So if there's an incident where we need to be on scene, they'll hook it up. It's as long as an 18-wheeler, so it's 53 feet long. They'll send us all out there, and we'll work inside at the incident. And here's some pictures of the inside. So here on the left, you'll see all the monitors, big monitors, printer, water, servers. And then on the right, we have conference rooms. But I think we've only had to use it once. We used it for the Pauline fire that happened in, do you remember when the Pauline fire happened? I think it was March. Yeah, March. That was the first time we used it, and it was actually when we just finished the command trailer. So it was about 2 or 3 weeks old, and we had it sent out there, and we were working out of there from the field, which was, I heard it was fun. I hadn't come on yet, but I'm looking forward to having to work in there. I haven't gotten to work in there yet, but I'm also really excited to do it. But that also means that something bad has to happen. So it's like, I want to work in it, but something bad has to happen. So. Oh, and that's the end. So I'd like to say thank y'all. If you have any questions for me, that's my email, my phone number. Do you have any questions or clarifying questions or questions about something I didn't cover in my topics? I also have business cards, so if I just want my card, I'll just hand it out. Yes.
How many students here are Homeland Security students? You okay?
I was like, I knew I recognized you. I was like, you look familiar.
Yeah, emergency med, huge part of Homeland Security. So very good, sir. Very good to get involved. If you don't want to go to Montgomery County, Walker County has a cert.
They do.
Joe Donald is the coordinator, and
Yes, I do know Walker County has a very strong CERT team, and theirs actually they get to work in the EOC. So
And they do fun things like Rocky Raccoons race or something in high school state park and local events. And it's a cert, if you get a cert certification, you can use it anywhere in the country, so it's national. Most of the cert teams will grandfather you if you are in one location and move on, live your life in it. So they are very good skills to have.
they do. I get it all the time. People email me from out of state or out of county, and it's pretty easy though to send me their certificate, or they don't have it. I can just call up the coordinator, and they can confirm whether or not they are, and I can add them to our team. You got a question?
What does your like day-to-day work look like?
Oh, I was hoping I'd get this question. So I'm going to pull out my calendar, my daily. So Lauren knows. That's actually my girlfriend. So she came to my talk. So let's pull out my calendar. The daily, so mine's a little different. Since I do community preparedness, I'm out of the office a lot. But for a traditional planner, we have two Homeland Security planners, Randy and Victor. They're in the office a lot. But my typical day, so let's say for the past month, I go to a lot of meetings. I did THIRA meetings, which is threat hazard identification for the federal government. I either take FEMA continuing education classes for the past 2 weeks. I've done the L101 and the 103, which is for the basic EM certificate. Also, as of last week, I am a CERT master instructor, which basically means I can teach other people to teach CERT. So that's fun. So my daily, this week I had a reunification meeting with Splendora ISD on Monday. Tuesday I had 2 meetings in downtown Houston for THIRA. I taught the Bonterra CERT final, also on Wednesday, yesterday, last night. Today I have the CJ thing. I also have my own CERT class I'm teaching tonight, the disaster psychology and terrorism. But it really just depends. Since mine's always by request or by class, I'm always busy out of the office. So it's pretty normal for me to work 15, 16-hour days. But I also get to take a lot of time off, so I'm not going to go to work on Friday or Monday. So. But mine is a lot more hectic. It ranges from, can I go back? Like all these daily duties. I'm doing all of these things at the same time. So currently I'm writing 3 EAPs that are due next week. One's for a Back the Brave event in Magnolia, another one in Magnolia, and I think we have a fair and rodeo happening also. So I'm doing that. For the full-scale exercises, we're doing 12 of them. We've currently done 3. The next one is December 3rd. So we're working on walking through the facility for that, figuring out how we're going to do our casualties, where we're going to put them. Also, I need to figure out what volunteer pool I want to pull from. So for example, the last one we did was at an office building in the Woodlands. That one was a particularly heavy lift because I had to coordinate and get 100 volunteers. I was able to get 95, so I was very happy with that. But it was an office building over 3 floors. We had 2 shooters, an IED, and they had 3 hostages. And Randy and I, we did all the planning. We wrote the EAP for it. We did all the logistics, and then we handed it over to them. We're okay, now do it. So it really just depends. But most of the time, it either involves me coordinating with the volunteers, teaching classes, going to meetings, or going out and doing speaking events. And that could be at colleges. I've done it for HOAs. I did it for American Airlines. We did it for Entergy. I can't think off the top of my head. I did it for a golf club. I've done it for the Boy Scouts. So anyone that has my email, they can just shoot me an email, request me to come out. And if it's in Montgomery County, or in this case, because I know students here live in Montgomery County, that's my loophole of going outside the county. So it's busy stuff. It is, but I love it. I absolutely love doing it.
You seem like you're very passionate about your job, and it makes me so happy because you just seem like you love what you do.
I definitely do. And my boss is like, he's like, where are you at? I was like, I'm in Huntsville. I told you yesterday. He's like, I don't remember that stuff. He's like, you have to send me a text. So yeah, no, I love doing it. And eventually they're telling me, like, you have to start telling people no. I was like, but I don't want to tell anybody no. I was like, I can fit them in my schedule if I just move it around or push it to next week. Yes.
Could you talk a little bit about the hierarchy within the county? So who is your boss?
Mm-hmm.
Who is in the offices that you work at?
Mm-hmm.
What do all those folks do?
Okay, so ours is a little different because I don't know how many EMCs or emergency management coordinators are also the chief of staff for the county. So ours is a little different. So basically, if you're looking at our office hierarchy, it goes county judge, our EMC, which is Jason Millsaps, also the chief of staff. Our deputy chief of staff is Mark Seals. Then it goes Trey Baxter, which is my direct supervisor. He is chief of preparedness and response. From there, we go to our planning section, which is the 2 Homeland Security planners, Randy, Victor, and then me, community preparedness planner. Then if we move to logistics, we have 2 logistics specialists that run our warehouse. And after I go through and name them all, I'll tell you what they all do. I just need to visualize it in my mind. And then if we move to mitigation, we have 2 mitigation specialists, which are Morgan and Karen. Is that everybody? Oh, and then also the reality-based training center that I mentioned, they fall under Homeland Security, even though they're Homeland Security adjacent. So the deputy chief of staff runs that office, and it's run by Daniel Pena. So if we're looking at our deputy, yes. I am missing the grant writing specialist. Yes. We also have grant writing specialist, which is Holly, and then finance and admin is Stephanie. So yes, thank you. I missed that. I knew I was missing someone. It runs our school. So EMC, he's always going to be our EOC manager, most likely. Either the day or night shift. If we switch off, so when we're activated, we do a 24-hour operational period with an A and B shift. So usually the A shift when we mark seals, so he'll run the EOC in the morning. Night shift usually done by Jason Millsaps. He also coordinates all our heavy equipment. He does everything. But it's hard to say because, like I said, he's the chief of staff. So he's everyone's boss in the county except for the county judge. Trey Baxter, he runs the planning section. So he tells us essentially what to do, but he also is in charge of doing all the safety and security meetings for all the ISDs, and he'll defer that to us. He tells us what plans we need to be writing or doing, but he's also a battalion chief, I believe, for Timberlake's volunteer fire department. And he used to be FMO, fire. Our logistics specialists, they do all the heavy equipment moving. So if we're activated during an EOC and we get a resource request that, hey, we need 2 pallets of water, we need 500 masks, we need something, they'll come through our section. Either myself or Randy will approve it. It goes to them, and they'll be the guys on the ground moving that equipment or resources to wherever we need it. Our grant writers, they handle all our money, everything. They make sure all our grants are in line so that we all get paid. We get all our nice equipment that we have. Like I said earlier, our hazard mitigation specialist, they deal more on the recovery side. So they'll be handling all those buyouts, all the stuff with FEMA, all the insurances. I don't know a lot about that, but if you have more questions, I can put you in contact with them on that section. You're welcome. Yes. Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah. Yeah, so all of Texas will mostly be the same. I've had a lot of CERT people come from California, so they do a lot more landslides, earthquakes. So the type of disasters that you're preparing for will be a little different, but the training's the exact same. And it's transferable, like Professor Denham said, all over the country. Any other questions? Yes. My favorite part about the job? I would say I just like going out and talking to people. I like doing all the little community events. That's what I also forgot. So like I did a trunk or treat. He was asking about that earlier. He's like, well, how do you make that terrorism oriented so I'm grant funded. So everything I have to do has to be touch some sort of terrorism. So he's like, how do you make a trunk or treat or a tester truck or like a little kid event terrorism based? I was like, well, I also hand out candy. I talk to their parents about terrorism. I have pamphlets. I talk to them about active shooter. So a lot of times they don't like it. Now I bring up active shooter, they cringe. Well, I'm like, well, it's a reality, but I'd rather y'all be prepared for it. So that's how we kind of tie everything into terrorism. That's also, I just like doing the people stuff. I like going out and talking to people and doing our little 10 events and talking to all the kids and taking pictures. So, and also because I'm still young and I don't want to sit behind a desk for 10 hours a day. I like being out and about. Yes.
You mentioned needing to find volunteers for a project. How do you do that? How do you find those volunteers?
So we pull from our pools of CERT volunteers and MRC volunteers. So for us, it's Volunteer Hub. Currently, we have 1,200 volunteers. We also partner with Sam Houston Nursing Program to pull from our Volunteer Hub. So everyone in our volunteer group either has the CERT certificate or is MRC registered, so they're already in our system. So we like to use them because we know they have some sort of medical or they're trained. We don't want to use someone that's not vetted, but the ones we do use that, well, they are vetted, but they're not in our system is the Sam Houston nursing program. But if you live in Montgomery County or if you're close, I can give you my email, or you can take the class and you'll be added to our pool of volunteers. And from there, I push out opportunities all the time. For the CERT?
Yeah, the next class.
So we haven't created the CERT schedule, but I know there are 2 classes happening in Montgomery County, one for the 1488 and another one for Bonterra that's happening in Wood Forest. I'm going to be coordinating and teaching some of those classes, but the ones I'm going to be teaching, all of them, we haven't quite narrowed down the date, but it probably won't be till May or April. But you can find that on our website, and I'll give you my card, and I can shoot you just the main link for our website where it'll be posted at.
How long is that course?
So it just depends on the delivery. So the way we do it, because I still have to work all throughout the day, we do the 8-week program. So for ours, it's Wednesdays from 6 to 9 for 8 weeks in a row. But if you go to different places, they can do 3 full days or 8 hours a day over 3 weeks, or they even do a hybrid one now, which we're experimenting with. We did our first hybrid class, or I did the first hybrid class in Montgomery County earlier this month. It was a little difficult and confusing, but we figured it out. We did it so it's a 12-hour online program, and then it's 12 hours hands-on in person. So everything you do hands-on in person over the 8 weeks, we do all in one day. And that was a little fun to figure out, considering I had about 30 people and I was the only person teaching. But it just depends on the delivery and which works best for you. So if you wanted to, you can go online and do the hybrid portion, and it'll give you a certificate. And the next time we have an in-person training, you could just send it to me, and you can just come to our in-person training and just do the hands-on portion.
So I was just thinking kind of in the context of the Kerrville floods. How does Montgomery County, I guess just emergency management offices in general, plan for spontaneous volunteers? Like people just showing up like the day of or right after and just being like, I'm here to help.
So we want to get ahead of it. So we post on our social medias or our websites like, hey, if you're coming to volunteer, come to this certain area. Because, of course, we can always use more volunteers, but we don't want anyone working or helping that we've not accounted for, because we don't want the liability. So our way of doing that is try to get ahead of it, post, say, hey, we need you to get here. And if they refuse to move, you kind of have to ask them nicely but firmly to leave. And it's kind of hard and it looks bad. It's like, hey, this big disaster happened and you're telling people that are coming to help to leave. So it's a fine line that you're walking. Yes?
What does an application fee in your program look like?
For CERT? CERT, okay, so it's an online thing. We need to know name, date of birth, driver's license number, and then you basically have to say, I agree to do a criminal background check. It's very simple. Yes?
What inspired you to do what you do?
Oh, that's very good. So a lot of times when you're in college, they're like, you need to know what you want to do. You need to know what you're going to do. So you need to know how to do that. When I graduated with my bachelor's degree, I had no idea I wanted to do emergency management. And that was only about 2.5 years ago. So the original way I got into it is that we got a new emergency manager down in the county where I'm from, Medina County. And it just so happened he was posting stuff in the newspaper that he needed an intern. And I was like, that sounds interesting. I don't have anything to do over the summer. I was like, why not? So I went ahead and did it. He taught me all the basics. He taught me how to fill out all the ICS forms. He taught me about all the plans, plan writing, grants. And since it's such a small county, he was the only person in the emergency management office, so we literally did everything together. We went out and responded to disasters, accidents. So first I learned how to do it out in the field, and when I came to Montgomery County, I learned really the inside job on how to do all the stuff behind the scenes, all the paperwork and everything else. So once I got my foot in the door and I really saw everything, I was like, I could do this. I really like this a lot. So that's kind of what inspired me. It was just, I happened to be thumbing through our newspaper in Hondo, and it just so happened that I saw the ad for it, and I called them up and applied. And I also got accepted into grad school. Question? Yeah. Do you have a question?
Who's your favorite professor?
Oh, you can't. I can't answer that question. Yeah. I plead the fifth. Yeah, they're just asking me questions. A lot about CERT. Let's see, any other things we could think of? Let's talk about the assisted living facilities just because they hold a very special place in my heart. So when you come to planning, especially out in the community, you would think that when they're asking you for help, they'd be very open to suggestion. They're not. Especially when it comes to assisted living facilities. I can't say the facility or the specific problem, but a lot of times they're like, show me specifically in the law where it says I have to do this or I have to do that. And I'm like, well, it specifically doesn't, but it says here it has to be approved by me, so either comply or no license. Sometimes you do have to be firm with the people because they're not going to get it. Yes?
Educate those people and let them know why you need this information and why you...
I do. So a lot of times we say it's best practice, so they should do this. I could give them a whole list of reasons to do it. And it doesn't say they legally have to do it, they will not do it. Which you think they would, but we don't live in a perfect world.
I have a 10-year-old, so I feel like
Yes.
So you're saying assisted living facilities are kind of pushback you're getting?
Lots of pushback. And I've also learned to stop including my county cell phone number in my signature because they like to call me a lot, especially on the weekends when I'm not working. So I'm working on taking it out of my signature because I don't want them calling me anymore. The ones that have my phone number, they can continue to call me, but any ones in the future, I'm like, no, I'm good. Call my desk line. But yeah, no, a lot of them have pushback. The schools, no pushback. They are very open to any sort of, I don't want to say criticism, but ways they can improve, and they're very open to it, and they always schedule meetings, they do follow-ups, so they're very on top of it. Yes? The voting thing.
Yeah, you said you have to go in, you didn't get home until like early in the morning.
Oh, yes. So that was when I was an intern. Okay, so during the presidential election at our Costco of Emergency Management, our warehouse, we hold all of the voting equipment for the entire county. And on election night, we have to sit there and physically receive and confirm that we received every single voting device back. So we have to stay there all the way till midnight, 2, 3 in the morning. And a lot of times the people coming to deliver them are kind of, I would say, suspect characters. But no, I'd forgotten about that. Yeah, that's something we do, and we only do it for the presidential elections. But that one is high security, and we have to make sure we receive every single device back and make sure it comes back untampered with. That's a good question. I'm not the person that does that, but I'm the one that's in there working the warehouse for all the people that do know what they're doing. Because the people that are in the warehouse aren't our people, so we have to be there to make sure they're not doing things they're not supposed to be doing. Yeah. Yes.
What do you think the coolest full-scale exercise that you've done has been?
Oh, definitely this last one we did, because it was the biggest one we've done that involved the most volunteers. So I already described it. Professor, you weren't here, so I'll do it again. So it was in the Woodlands. It was partnered with the Sheriff's Department. It was an 8-story office building, but we limited it to 3 stories. We had 95 volunteers to play victims. We had 2 shooters, one that was holding hostages, one that was in another corner, I think, committing suicide, and we also had a IED in the parking garage. That was definitely the biggest one we've done, the coolest one we've done. We've done 2 other active shooter ones. We're doing another one, actually I can't say that. We're doing another one very soon that I cannot disclose where or when it's at. But that one that's coming up will be the coolest one I've done, but I can't talk about it till after it's over. You have a question? Oh yeah, go ahead.
So, I volunteered for this last one.
Okay, so I volunteered for the shooting in the Woodlands, and it was really cool. So in the morning when we showed up, we were all given like a card with a yeah, we were all wearing a card around our neck, and it explained what injury we had. Me personally, I had blood in my throat, so I was very much incapacitated. I couldn't move, and he told all the volunteers pretty much where to go in the building, and he was like, "This is your floor, this is your spot, and just play the part." So when the scenario started, they gave us a start time and an end time, and it was really cool. He was like, "Play it up, like I want to hear screaming and crying, and like y'all need to act like victims." So it started, and then it sounded like a horror movie because I heard people screaming, crying. At first I thought it was like a tape. Like I thought they like recorded it and just was like playing it. It wasn't. It was actually people screaming like they were dying. And with me personally, because I couldn't scream, I played dead for like 30-ish minutes. And the whole point of the practice is to help the emergency responders not only like I guess catch the shooter but help the victims in the situation. So when they came to me, one of the officers was like, "Hey, can you move and like help us out?" And then the other one looked at him and he was like, "She's unconscious, she can't move." And so they had to carry me out, and they took me to triage outside, which is kind of cool. So if you have the opportunity to volunteer, especially in one of like those scenarios, it's really fun and it really does help the community.
It's also good having our volunteers on the inside because I can't be everywhere at once, so they tell me. And a lot of times, since they know how to do basic treatment and triage, they'll be like, "Hey, they didn't do this, or they didn't do that, or they didn't do this properly." I'm like, "Yeah, tell me more." I take notes and I send it to them. Oh, I'll go to the end. Oh, you didn't get to see our ambus, our special operations vehicle. This is our large ambus. Holds 22 dead, 22 live, 40 dead. Our mobile EOC, mobile command center. So all our stations, our conference rooms, a couple couches to take naps. Thank you.